as men, we have a sense of our testosterone and our strength and our macho that we want to show other men that we can endure, we can take it. Put me in the ice bath. We're competitive. Your life sucks, so does mine. Tough it out, buddy. Take it on the chin. And this has led to like a systemic unhappiness across men. Like women have been evolving and stepping into their power. And men, we kind of step to the side a little bit. Women need strong leaders. Our children need strong leaders. Men, we need strong leaders for each other. And, this kind of antiquated idea of, what it means to be a man, that you don't take care of yourself, is like a sweeping problem in the world. Men, we're 50% of the population and we're 80% of the suicide rate.
Battle Line Podcast, we have an excellent episode for you guys. Evan Seinfeld, you may know him from Oz, you probably know him from Biohazard, but we really talk more in depth this episode about what he's doing with Mantorship, which kind of self-explanatory, a men's mentorship group, but they're doing something very unique, I will say. And actually, while we get into the discussion, he talks about how they could target more military guys, and this was really the place to discuss that because of our audience. And I always say it's like this audience is like a partnership between civilians and the military, just kind of how it is with Chris and myself. One thing I wanted to mention, actually. So we got great feedback on the last episode of Pablo Schreiber. What an honor having him in studio. Great guy. I'm trying to do more things in studio. One thing you may notice with this interview is we're back to using Zoom. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing this. If you're on the audio platforms, check us out on YouTube. But we did an episode actually with Jack Stewart where we were using a platform called Riverside, which records in high resolution and high definition audio, and it definitely does look better. The problem is you run into, I will say, this might be negative publicity for them, but you run into a whole gang of technical issues using that platform where the original audio is not recorded, or a whole bunch of stuff. I never lost any material for Battle Line, but we almost lost material for the other stuff that I do with the Nidus Anarchy series, one of the other podcasts I'm a part of. And at that point, we're like, let's just scrap this. So Zoom may not be the best video in terms of quality, but it's just always been reliable. So that's what we're sticking with. But really the best is always when you can do in studio. So I'm making an effort to do more in studio stuff this year. At the very least, like one show a month where we're in studio. But yeah, we're working with what we have. Chris will always be out in Kansas and I'll be wherever I am at the moment in New York. I mean, we've had 2 moves since doing this show and maybe more to come. But it's worked. It's worked for 4 years, and we're almost 4 years, right? We're going on 4 years. Or no, what am I saying? We started in 2019, so yeah, over 4 years. Time just flies, man. But you guys are gonna love this episode with Evan. We talk a lot about fitness and health, and that plays in great to Bubs Naturals. You guys know Bubs Naturals, the best supplements on the market for collagen protein, MCT oil powder, apple cider vinegar gummies, and also their Hydrate or Die hydration packets. All of their supplements are top notch. If you're not familiar with collagen, collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body. It is literally the glue that holds our bodies together. Collagen is a blend of highly functional amino acids found in the body's connective tissue. And the thing about Bubs is there's no blending of other products. These are just raw, ground up cow hides from grass-fed cows. It is one of the best supplements that you're going to take. It is definitely a staple of my diet and supplement routine. And yeah, it's something I'm using a lot of now that I'm getting back into the gym more than I was previously. I've really made time for that in my life, which is something we talk about during this podcast. And it is great for workout recovery and joint rehabilitation. So check them out, bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code BattleLine and you're going to get 20% off. That's bubsnaturals.com. promo code BattleLine. And every time that you support Bubs Naturals, you're giving back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which helps out the families of military veterans, helps out kids of military veterans in the special operations community who are going to college, who are, doing other things. And man, Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation is doing great things. So check them out. Support a great company, bubsnaturals.com, promo code BattleLine. Let's hit this. Evan Seinfeld on BattleLine Podcast.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The switch is on, BattleLine Podcast, and I have to say, man, I am truly honored to be joined by Evan Seinfeld, frontman of Biohazard, creator now of Mantorship, among truly like a million other things. And I could tell you, man, throughout the years, I feel like even more so than a Biohazard fan or any fan of anything you've done in particular, I'm more of just an Evan Seinfeld fan, and the fact that like you've truly though you've pivoted to so many different things, and every few years something you do comes across my radar. And I'll give a shout out, actually. What came across my radar just scrolling YouTube was your interview with Matt Metwally, where I learned all about what you're doing with Mantorship. And I was like, with us being a very military audience, a very male audience, I was like, this is a perfect thing to get out there. So we'll get into Biohazard, we'll get into everything else, but it's an honor to be joined by you, man.
Thank you very much for having me, man. And it's good to be seen. We all live with our own story in our heads of attachment to an idea of who we think we are. Like we believe that our connectivity with this is my job and this is my house somehow defines us and our character or our being. And like me, it's just an honor to be here because I've always been a huge supporter of our military, and so many military guys are Biohazard fans.
Yes.
Like when we go on tour, and there's so many. We'll be in some town where there's a base and there's so many active military guys, and these are our guys. You know what I mean? These are the guys, and it ties perfectly into where I'm at right now with Mantorship because, the idea of what it means to be a man today in society, depending on who you are, where you live, and how old you are, and how you were raised, or what you were exposed to, who your positive or negative male role models are, and who told you what to do and what not to do, and who led you by example or not, defines how you see it. But me, I'm 56 years old, and
looking great, by the way, truly.
Listen, I when you're in your second half of your 50s and you have abs, you keep your shirt off as often as possible.
And for you living in Mexico, because I know we were hopefully, you do this again because it would be great to do in studio. I kind of learned last minute you were in New York today, and I'm in New York, so hopefully we get to meet in person at some point. But yeah, I think with you living in Mexico, yeah, you just get to be in shorts 24/7. It seems like.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'll talk more about that. About kind of the part of the idea of mentorship is. Well, I'll get into that story in a minute. Let me just talk about your audience for a second.
Sure, go for it. We'll go all over the place. I don't know how much time you have, but we'll
I
cover
love
it all.
the idea of introducing mentorship to the military guys, because we all live in our thoughts, what we're achieving, what we're not achieving. Like there's a higher level of consciousness above your job. And that's how you view the world, how you perceive life. What is your perspective? What are you looking at? Do you have a 36,000-foot view of your life? Because what's happening with lots of men all over the world is that men are waking up one day and they're 30 or 5 or 45 or 50, and they did everything they thought they were supposed to do, and they did everything that they were told. They followed that. They took the job and got the wife and the house and the insurance, and they got the mortgage. And then one day they wake up and think to themselves, how am I going to make my monthly nut this month? And I don't have any time to take care of myself. I haven't been to the gym. I stopped going because I'm a good father and I take care of my kids, and I spread myself so thin that I'm no longer doing anything for me. This is like a common recurring theme I hear from so many men. And it doesn't matter. We have guys in mentorship who are military officers, and we have guys who are, living in third world countries in the jungle. It's a global network, and men, we're like dogs. Like you see a dog in the street, you know how it's going to behave. You know what the wagging tail means. We're like, every one of us is cut. It's like if this was the DNA of a man, it's like we're cloned off of each other, and everybody gets a little fairy dust on top. Okay, you're a little muscular and cool. This guy's really smart. This guy's, from a different country, but like we kind of feel and think the same. And it came to my attention during this process of going through a really hard time in my life, where I was going through my third divorce. And, you mentioned the wide breadth of things that, I've worked on in my life, the diversity of it. And yeah, I fancy myself, a Renaissance outlaw, that I just, I have a lot of self-belief. It's part of one of the things I push in the book, and talking about, you can do anything if you believe you can. And I want to help men see that they can change their lives. That if they wake up one day and are dissatisfied with their life and they feel stuck, that there are answers. And we've created like a brotherhood where guys discuss what's going on, because we all think we got to figure everything out on our own.
Yeah.
Robert, who you met earlier, likes to say it's like having a board of directors for your life. A guy's going through a breakup, a divorce, changing careers, getting downsized out of his job, having a problem with something or another. And we all think everyone's biggest problem is everyone's biggest problem. But when you find out that thing that you have shame or guilt about, or you're afraid to talk to your brothers about, you're afraid to talk to your friends, your homies, certainly wouldn't talk to your woman about this because it's something that you feel embarrassed about. As you're getting older, maybe you're dealing with some physical or mental health issue. I started writing the book. I started looking into the men's issues.
And if I could just ask, because I heard you mention the book on that interview before, and forgive me for not knowing, is your book out or you're working on it?
No, it's not.
Okay, I didn't think so.
It's kind of a weird Evan Seinfeld reverse move. I was going through my third divorce. I had a very successful tech company in the adult business, and it was making millions in the pandemic, and it slipped into the red. I was depressed for the first time. My best friend fucking died of cancer with no warning, and I got to sit with him. It was like a cataclysmic events, one after another, just the universe sending me messages like, change your life, brother.
Yeah.
Was living in LA and living completely just in my ego, just making money so I could have a lifestyle that looked expensive, that was expensive.
Sure.
Just, when I was young, I always knew what my purpose was. I'm the kind of guy who never had to think about what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to play in a band. And I worked my ass off to get to where I got with Biohazard. Biohazard sold a couple of million records in the 90s with no radio play. And we broke a lot of barriers. We played in 80 countries around the world.
And I think don't get enough credit for merging rap with metal. I mean, everybody talks Korn, Limp Bizkit. I know that the original way before then was Aerosmith and Run DMC, but people do forget Biohazard and Onyx long before those bands I mentioned.
Yeah, and we're working on a new album, and we plan on having some hip hop guests and mashing up some different artists and some different.
Could you say any names? Yeah, now I'm
Oh,
intrigued.
yeah, we're not even there yet.
Okay.
Now we know what we know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like when people say if you could start all over again, I'd retired from the band 12 years ago
Yes.
without a thought of playing in Biohazard again. I was so full of myself and my ego and resentment, things that I was carrying around that weren't serving me. It was toxic. I was getting physically ill. I was having panic attacks, couldn't sleep. My sleep was interrupted. That was really the culmination of me knowing I needed to make a major life change. And, men, we sit in it. Sometimes we get comfortable and we dig in and we hole up, in an uncomfortable place. And as men, we have a sense of our testosterone and our strength and our macho that we want to show other men that we can endure, we can take it. Put me in the fucking ice bath. We're competitive. Your life sucks, so does mine. Tough it out, buddy. Take it on the chin. And this has led to like a systemic unhappiness across men. Like women have been evolving and stepping into their power. And men, we kind of step to the side a little bit. Women need strong leaders. Our children need strong leaders. Men, we need strong leaders for each other. And, this kind of antiquated idea of, what it means to be a man, that you don't take care of yourself, is like a sweeping problem in the world. Men, we're 50% of the population and we're 80% of the suicide rate.
Yeah, and I should say with the podcast that I do, and since you may not know, I mean, I'm not prior military, but Chris, who's not with us, one of the Benghazi attack survivors, Army Ranger, CIA contractor, and we have a lot of those type of guys on our show. And I mean, truthfully, yes, we do have females in the military, of course. We've had combat fighter pilots on like Amber Smith, but most of the guys who are sent over, to fight and in many times die in these wars, it's males. And I think when you speak men's rights issues or men's health, it almost gets if you say like men's rights issues, I think to the general public it almost gets laughed at. Like, oh, men have everything. You guys have and it's kind of ridiculous to overlook all those things we just spoke about.
I'm thinking a little deeper than rights. I'm thinking mindset. I'm
Sure.
thinking mindfulness. What helped me along my transformation, was stripping everything away. I moved to a third world country where I didn't speak the language well. I knew a few words.
Are you talking about Mexico though? Because I feel like it's not. It's so close to here though.
Listen, it's the third world where I live. The laws that exist to protect you in America or whatever don't exist there.
It's just funny because I know so many expat military guys. Actually, some have been on the show, like our friend Leo Jenkins or Nick Betts, and they live in Mexico too. They were like, "Fuck this place, I'm out of here."
Yeah, I wasn't like, fuck this place. I was like, it doesn't serve me right now.
Yeah.
And one of the themes in my book that Mantorship carries the message, time is our currency. And
Yes.
I didn't want to live another day not being in my favorite place. Why? I can't. I do everything we do is online. And what happened was I moved to Mexico to reinvent myself without knowing what I wanted to do for the first time. I always knew I want to be in a band. I want to be an actor. I meet a girl. She's a porn star. She's Tara Patrick.
Yes.
She needs a manager. I'm going to learn that business. I'm going to be a high performer and a high profile person in that industry. I worked with Larry Flint to launch Hustler TV. And, we were partners with Vivid Video and Jenna Jameson and the biggest web companies. And, we worked with the big live streaming platforms. I got interested in tech. I built what was called the first premium social network with Inked magazine. It was called ismygirl.com. And we were the early competitors of OnlyFans. And in the pandemic, this business exploded. And we had articles in Forbes and Business Insider and Rolling Stone and Playboy and CNN and Fox News. And it was insane, you know, it was an insane time in my life. But I didn't like even working on that. It was just like, what could I do to make money? What would be proof of concept of a great idea that
Sure,
would
sure.
connect and help people make money? Why am I talking about this? Is Mantorship is a global platform right now in Discord where any guy from anywhere in the world can just go to the link in my Instagram bio or just go to mantorship.com and click through to our Discord. And there's live video meetings with 10, 20 guys talking about the social pressures they're feeling, the pressures they put on themselves, talking about it's a safe place for guys to be vulnerable,
Sure.
you know, especially, military guys, are probably trained not to show their emotions because they're soldiers. They're on a mission. They have to be supermen, you know. These are the guys who protect us and they take it seriously. And, and we honor and respect them. We want to support them because maybe they're going through an emotional hard time. What happens when you're going through a divorce or a breakup or something else, and you got to show up and be a soldier and you got to do some long duty or detail or, how do you handle your feelings? Do you have other guys you can talk to about something that you're embarrassed about? Are you worried about, we've created this safe space for men to receive like supportive, constructive feedback, whatever you're going through. Even guys share things that they're ashamed of and getting shit off their chest, or just something they're embarrassed about, or something that they're struggling with. Something as simple as a guy who's gained fucking 50 pounds and he's out of shape and he can't get the motivation to get going. And we right quick give him an accountability partner. We get him to make a commitment to doing something and taking some action today into living a better life. And the idea of mentorship is simple. We're a community of men who are committed to walking the path of self-development, to continue working on ourselves, to fucking Tom Brady this life.
Hmm.
When
So you know what?
when
Yeah,
everybody else is sitting on the couch, I want to be with fucking bands doing a fucking workout. When everybody
sure.
else is eating some shit food that's killing them on the inside, I'm eating some healthy nourishment.
No, absolutely. And it all goes hand in hand. You know what I wanted to ask you about though, because you've brought it up now and how you wanted to make a change in your life. So it's funny enough. I mean, I was speaking with the CEO of Mantorship when we booked this, and we're all from the same area. So you're from Brooklyn, but you lived right by me in Roslyn. We're all kind of Long Island guys. The first time, or the only time really, I met you was when I was in college. It was at a club called Medicine it was in like the Hempstead area, East Meadow, and you were there with your wife, Tara Patrick, at the time, promoting a DVD that you did. And I shook your hand. I probably have a picture with you somewhere. Don't know where it is. But yeah, it was a club that had like go-go dancers in, that type of thing. They played metal music.
And
And I could tell that where you are now, it's a very different place in your life, as you said, about turning things around. So I wanted to ask you about that actually, because we were talking about men's health and men's rights issues, if you want to call it that. And it's like, it's obviously not a judging thing because I have been there myself. When we talk about the things that are like tearing men apart, whether it's alcohol, like not being good on their fitness or eating poorly, the
or
one that's like the one that's kind of kept under the rug truly
let me
is
say it. Let me say it. Porn
yeah,
addiction.
absolutely. And
Absolutely.
I don't say it either as a judging thing because I've fucking been there myself. And if you watch the actually Chris Rock, not his last stand-up special, two stand-up specials again, he talked about the divorce that he went through. And he says to the crowd, he goes, I got hooked on porn, and everybody laughs. And the punchline that Chris Rock says is he goes, I know, multi-billion-dollar industry, but I'm the only one who's ever had a problem with this. And I thought that was such a great line because
So
people
many,
don't talk about that. But
there's
yeah,
so many guys who have problems with a lot of things. And, I quit drinking alcohol and taking drugs in 1988 and was completely sober for 30 years. Living in California for a long time, I started smoking weed like medicinally, and so I'm what they call Cali sober, right?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
But it doesn't matter what your addiction is. It doesn't matter if it's porn or if it's gambling or if it's food or if it's alcohol or if it's sex or if it's workaholism. It's all the same thing. And I love AA with all the respect in the world and saved my life many a time. What we're doing in Mantorship is kind of going a layer, don't want to say deeper. I want to say it's a layer above or below, where we're talking about why. Why do we get compulsively addicted to anything? It's because there's something inside of us, some hole we're trying to fill with some external thing that can't be cured from the outside. It doesn't matter how much porn you watch, you never feel okay. It doesn't matter how much alcohol you drink, you're never satisfied. It's an insatiable thirst. It's an unquenchable thirst and an insatiable hunger, right? Because you're trying to fill some emptiness from inside ourselves because we've got some parent issue, we've got some childhood trauma, whatever it is, the bully in the schoolyard, the abusive parent, or the unknowingly abusive parent who gave you a bunch of messages that you carry around. And not to blame other people, to deal with your own shit. We try to get to the heart of the matter because men, we live so much here. And when we're operating in our most authentic selves from our hearts, and we're living in alignment with our truth, everything is possible. You realize you can change your life. You could decide, you know what? I've been this person for the last 10, 15 years. Maybe I want to try living in a tropical place and taking up spirituality and yoga and mindfulness and becoming a vegetarian and getting really healthy and seeing how that feels and seeing how I move through life as this kind of, 7.0 version, because life is, I read this amazing book, 4,000 Weeks. 4,000 weeks, what is 4,000 weeks? It's how long your life is.
Okay.
It's like it makes you think. You start thinking.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I don't, Metallica, I have the Metallica book there. They put out that album 72 Seasons, which I believe is, I'd have to do the math. I think it's like the first 18 years of your life. That's what the album is about. So yeah.
Clever, looking at that. But when you think about 4,000 weeks and I say, okay, I'm 56. So how many weeks do I have left? What do I got? 1,700. That's not a lot of weeks. Sometimes I feel like a week goes by that I kind of wasted sometimes. And really, I've become hyper aware of time as my currency. I used to think it was money. Money's only worth what you can do with it, And for me, I didn't want to live another day doing repeat on anything.
Yeah.
If I like what I'm doing, great. If there's something I might like better, I'll only know if I try.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this interview with Evan Seinfeld of Biohazard, of Oz, and more recently of Mantorship. Has a book coming out, which he speaks about a lot in this interview, as you're hearing. And I'm looking forward to that coming out. Once it does, hopefully we'll do a part 2. But before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. You can go to the dealer locator on FSM.com, but you're going to get the best deal through us when you go to FSM.com and use the exclusive promo code BattleLine. That gives you 15% off your order. It's only available to listeners of the BattleLine podcast. So Don't tell anyone. But go there right now, guys. FSM.com, promo code BattleLine, one word. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, BattleLine Tactical, and the BattleLine podcast. It is the best ammo out there. Go there for the range, for home defense. They've got what you need for whatever you're shooting with. You are going to love them. Also, we have the best night vision sponsor out there, and that is Photonis Defense. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, which is the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to help them become masters of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. Visit PhotonisDefense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your local night vision dealer. Go there right now. Spell it right. It's PHOTONIS Defense.com. PhotonisDefense.com. Hope you're enjoying this interview so far. If you are, make sure to hit subscribe if you're a new listener or viewer, whether you're checking this out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever else. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave us a review. Leave us a comment. All that stuff helps us greatly in the algorithm, and we really appreciate it. With that, let's get back to Evan Seinfeld of Biohazard, of Oz, of Mantorship, and much more. You know what I wanted to ask you, when you decided to step away from, like, or actually when you were in the whole adult industry, I'm wondering, like, were any family members or friends like, what the hell are you doing? Because I mean, you accomplished so much with Biohazard, and whether people are into that music, whether they're like, this is too abrasive or not, they could respect it. They could respect what you did. And adult entertainment, it's always going to have this stigma. I'm just wondering, were the people around you like, man, why are you stepping away from something that's so loved by people to do this?
I was never stepping away from anything. I mean,
But you
I
quit the band for a while, so.
yeah, but that had nothing to do with the adult business. I left the band for my own personal reasons. I was just in a mental place where I didn't want to be with the other guys in the band anymore. It was a 25-year marriage that people only know the hyped up music video and the best clip from the Download Festival with 200,000 people. People see the glory moment, but they don't know when you're on tour, there's 23 other hours in the day, and you're in a bus, a van, a plane with a bunch of other guys who are also passionate artists, who also come from the same street corner in Brooklyn. And we all have a lot of history together. And, you know, bands are complicated. You didn't read the Motley Crue book.
Oh, I have. The Dirt,
I'm just
great,
saying,
great book.
it's
Great
not
book.
easy to, if it was easy, every band that you loved from the 80s and 90s would still be together and touring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny, many of them are in name, but it's like one member left.
Yeah, and what's cool, what we're doing with Biohazard right now is, you know, we got the original band back together. But yeah,
Which, by the way, how many bands could say that? There's so few.
well, you know, you can stay tuned on our social media, but they just announced today that we just got added to the Aftershock Festival with
Yes.
Slayer and Slipknot and Motley Crue and Judas Priest and all the bands I grew up with that now they're mostly my friends. But, you know, my life, I was always pinching myself because I'm a fan of music first, you know? And when we get to play with fucking Judas Priest, I'm a fucking fanboy, you know? I'm backstage taking pictures with them. And I'm on the side of the stage going, please let me sing background vocals. Let me come out and just, I know you don't have them in your band, but you know.
I know I'm going to get off track just mentioning this, but the first time I ever saw, and really I only saw you live once and not with Biohazard, I saw the last ever Pantera show in New York, and you got up with them and sung Walk.
Yeah, Nassau Coliseum.
Yes, I was there. I was a young
Actually,
kid
that
at the
wasn't
time.
the last. The truth is, the very, very last Pantera show in the history of Pantera
It was in Japan, but this
was
is the
in,
last New York.
yeah, and it was at the Beast Feast in Yokohama, Japan. It was Pantera, Slayer, Biohazard, Sepultura, and like 20,000 people in this like airplane hangar looking thing. And I got to come out, and it was like a tradition because we were like bestie, friendly bands was Pantera and Biohazard. We did a lot of touring together, probably, 200 dates over the years. We toured Australia together. We played 3 rounds of the US together in arenas. They were like our big brothers a little bit in metal, and they just loved us. They were like, come on, guys, fucking Biohazard. Let's fucking
I like the Phil impression.
That's kind of like a mix of Phil and Dime.
Okay. Nice.
Rex. It's really Rex. Hey, Jerry Evans. I love those guys, and to get to live out your fucking childhood, fucking teenage dreams of like even being at the show, much less playing in the show. But actually, I got a text message from my son earlier today with a bunch of old pictures that were scanned from like my storage place in Los Angeles. And there's an amazing picture of me and Dime. And I'm kissing him on the cheek. I'm gonna probably post it on Instagram later.
Nice.
It was like taken backstage in like 93. Time goes by, and you realize life is a long book with a lot of chapters, and you can write those chapters if you're fortunate. And men, we have it really, really good, man. Men, your stock can be rising for your entire life if you stay in shape and keep a few dollars in your pocket. You have to think, what do you really want? Do you want love and connection and family? Do you want money, fame, and fortune? Do you want peace? But whatever it is, whatever your truth is, live it. It's the only life you get. There's nothing sadder than like an unchased dream.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But how many of us men hunker down and we push our dreams to the side because we've accepted other responsibilities? And there's some valiant honor to that in our society as we look at men. You're a martyr. You sacrifice all for the good of others. Hey, I'm all about that. I give more than I take. But how can we be a fucking, they say on the airplane, you got to put the oxygen mask over your own mouth first before you're going to be a hero and save everybody on the plane. Because if you don't have enough, if you don't have enough oxygen, how are you going to save anybody? And this is what's happening to a lot of guys. They stop taking care of themselves. They have all this toxic thoughts and negative self-talk and self-doubt. And it comes out in toxic ways, man. Like you were talking.
Absolutely.
I'm going to answer your question. Did anybody look at me funny when
yeah, because I was like, I want to circle back to that. I thought you forgot my question. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of people had an opinion about it. And I'm not the kind of person that people readily come over to me and voice their opinion to my face if it's negative. It's just like background noise.
Yeah.
But a couple of my friends, were super excited, a little too excited about it, and a couple of my friends and people that I knew were like, whoa, I'm not comfortable with what you're doing. It's really funny when people have an opinion about what somebody else is doing. And I never judged anybody for caring or not caring. It was just something that I was doing. It wasn't even something I was looking to get involved with. I was filming Oz for HBO, playing Jazz Hoyt, the leader of the biker gang in the fictitious Oswald State Penitentiary. Little did I know my acting reel 20 years later is mostly with J.K. Simmons, who won the Oscar for Whiplash, and a bunch of other guys who are now A-list actors, Chris Maloney from Law and Order, and this guy and that guy. But I got contacted by somebody from Playboy TV to introduce me to Tara Patrick because she saw me on the show and wanted to be introduced. She wanted to go on a date. And we met, we fell in love, and she was signed into like a slavery contract where somebody owned her name. Like like you read about in wrestling,
Yeah.
you know, and she was famous, and she was a kind of a bit of a young, naive, vulnerable girl who'd been like, it's that story it's why people kind of frown on the adult business, is like you hear those stories about people being exploited and taking advantage of. And I was going to right the ship. So I got her out of her contract and I helped her set up a business. And this was like for love of somebody and wanting to kind of vindicate somebody who'd been within her own industry. She'd been oppressed and blacklisted, and there was some evil forces at work. And I was the first person from like the mainstream entertainment business. I was on HBO and MTV,
Yep.
and I took like a sideways step into that business, and I never had an intention about someday I want to be in that business. It kind of just happened. And when I got her out of her contract, we just started doing some business because we both needed money to live, and we became wildly successful very quickly. And we built an empire together, and it was based on our love for each other, and we loved working together and being together. And it was an interesting time in my life because people knew me from this and that, and we were like a taboo couple where like some people didn't want us at their party. And I always just thought that was so whack. Like, everybody, listen, I used to own a big adult platform, you know. Some of the websites have close to 1 billion visitors per day. Unique. That's 1/8 of the world is jerking off right now. Okay. It doesn't matter if you make the porn or he makes the porn, or if the girls from Only. This is good. This is happening, you know. For me, I think I was successful in that business financially because I was doing like trying to help my wife at the time from my heart and wanting to see her smile, you know, see her happy with her career. And at the same time, I didn't really care about porn. It was like a widget when you do a math problem. It was just something to sell. Okay, these people over here buy this. This is the product you need to make. This is how you market it. These are the distribution channels. And it was like Hollywood, but small and very easy to move. And it was there I kind of learned really about business.
But do you now that you're in this like men's health space, and we both acknowledged the negativity that it has towards men, like, do you look back on it as any type of bad karma that you're like, I was a part of this thing that is in some
Oh,
way destroying men?
this is all about transformation. You
Sure.
know, I'm the poster child for mentorship because I was fat as a house and depressed. You know, it's not about where you are, it's like your journey, right?
Sure.
It's like, how far have you come? I've been all the way to the dark side, and now I'm over here. You know, I want to help other guys who are there to find their truth and their transformation and a healthy path that they can walk. And, you know, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, there's a band of brothers waiting to walk with you that's all accepting with open arms. You know, it's a club that welcomes all men. And the more vulnerable guys are willing to be and the more real they're willing to be, the more they get out of it.
Sure.
You know, it's just incredible, some of the things. So we have something called Circle of Brotherhood. And this is what we do online. We get together, 5 guys, 25 guys. And we talk about what's heavy on our heart, what's going on in our head, what we're trying to navigate in life, what's taking up free rent in our minds and keeping us from being happy and joyous and free. You know, men, we need to be living in alignment with the lives we really want. If you love the beach, but you live in the cold, what are you doing?
Sounds like me. Yeah.
You're laughing. I'm not laughing. I'm
No,
crying.
it's true though. It is. It's true. Yeah.
Listen, I know because I lived in a lot of lies in my life. And last night at the meeting in Tulum at my house was 40 men from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different races, different walks of life, different socioeconomic backgrounds, even guys who speak different languages. But we find out when we get to like who we really are and what we experience, what we feel, that we're way more alike than we are different. And it's incredible the identification and the points of relation, because I'm sure there's so many guys in the military that struggle with the same thing guys not in the military struggle with. And I wonder if they have a safe space to talk about it with other guys. You know, as the need comes up, you know, I'd love to start it like, so the way we create our meetings is by need, right? Guys who come to our meeting always say the same thing. Wow, I can't believe this doesn't exist already. This is so needed in society.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, the space or the safe space that guys meet at far too often, especially military guys, is at a bar getting hammered, doing something that's destroying them.
Right. And you know, alcohol, you know, it takes us farther away from ourselves. And, you know, it's a powerful drug. It numbs the pain. And you know, it doesn't relieve anything. It numbs it. You know, usually your pain is doing push-ups while you're drinking, you know. Nobody, you know, I don't know if anybody has a story where alcohol solved something for them.
I feel, yeah,
It's only
absolutely.
in my life, and only in my life, alcohol was like the gasoline to my high-speed path to destruction, because alcohol for me led to cocaine and other drugs that brought me to my fucking knees as a young man. And I'm grateful for it, because I needed to get through that. That was one chapter of my life. Live something to the fullest. Decide you've done it enough. Change. You know, there's a chapter in my book called Embracing the Power of Change. You know, how many guys I know that they're at some job and I'm like, hey man, you, every time we talk, you tell me how unhappy you are in your marriage and how you hate your job and you hate where you live. And we only talk a couple times a year, bro, because we grew up together. But you say the same thing and you don't do anything about it. You know, this keeps men awake at night. This is why guys implode or explode. You know, it's not women shooting up schools.
Yeah. No, well said, man. It is unfortunate. Guys just, I think, we don't, for one, I think a lot of times don't have that physical outlet. And then, yeah, as you said, we numb ourselves with all these things that are toxic to us.
You know, I have an idea. You just spawned an idea here, okay?
That's amazing. I'll take it.
One of the mentors in our group, I told you, he's a Navy officer. He's a Navy man, and he's one of our best leaders. And we're going to start a group in our Discord for active and retired military guys, so they could talk to like-minded guys who will understand their specific set of problems or their specific set of challenges. Because like I said earlier, everybody's biggest problem is everybody's biggest problem. Sometimes you have a first world problem. You know, the new car I ordered isn't coming in on time. You know, the beautiful girl I'm going on a date with is running late. People stress out, you know, I'm running late to this meeting in my expensive car or in my living in this free country that I'm so grateful for. It's really easy for us to focus on what we don't have and what we're not getting and what's not going the way we plan, but nobody knows the future, and very few things work out the way it's planned. And we grow as men, we grow this great attachment to the outcome of things. And how many of us tell ourselves, you know, when I get to this place in my job and I have the 10 years in and I have the house and the wife and the kids, then I'll be happy. But usually by that time, we're working ourselves to death. We don't know how to enjoy ourselves anymore because a lot of us give up our friends. A lot of us forget that humans are tribal creatures, man. We're social animals. We need connectivity with others. You know, down in Tulum, I started a beach workout for the guys. It's called, and I'm launching a fitness app in April called Mindful Warrior. And it's kind of the idea of how to eat, work out, like custom tailored programs, diet, exercise, yoga, introducing guys who never did yoga to the benefits of yoga in a kind of mindful yet masculine workout way. It's like yoga for guys who don't do yoga.
Which is and I'm sure you're familiar with it, and he's been on the show, which is sort of what Diamond Dallas Page started.
Dude, DDP is one of my big brothers. Um,
Great guy. Yeah.
I look up to him in a lot of ways. He's a super giving, wise, kind guy. And, long before I ever thought about anything like this, man, he was telling me about this. He was up
Sure.
on this. He was up on this early. He's the real deal, because you see the satisfaction he gets in his passion and his intention to actually help people. You know, he's in some guy's house who's a shut-in who can't get out of the chair because he's 500 pounds. And then, you don't see all the work he does with this person, but then you see a video from, a year and a half later, this guy's doing squats.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
lost 200 pounds, and, now he's just turning it around. But, I carry that torch with DDP. You know, he sets a great example on how to give back, on how kindness, the strength in vulnerability, the strength in kindness, the strength in presence of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one guy who went to his house who I think was like a military paratrooper, and he spent all these years jumping out of planes and, fucked up his knees, and DDP got him back on his feet basically. I was gonna say, in terms of your fitness and your transformation, like I remember years ago around the time when I met you, I wouldn't say you were out of shape. You were at least at that time a very muscular, like big guy when you had the beard, I'm thinking, when you were on Oz. And then I noticed this. I could tell you when I noticed it. You were on That Metal Show when it was still on with Eddie Trunk, and you shaved it. Am I right on that? And you shaved the beard. I remember seeing you on there. I'm like, you look confused. I was like, I think I have this right. And you were shredded and slimmer, and you literally, and I'm not saying it to kiss your ass, like you look like you reversed age somehow. Like it looked like you just transformed your body type to this bulkier muscle mass to the way that you look now, and no one would think you're in your mid to late 50s. I mean, it's crazy.
It's not. Look, you say it's crazy. I'm not special, and I don't take steroids. So I'm light, bro. I weigh 160 pounds. I'm 5'10", Um, what is fitness for me is a way of life, and you can transform your body. It's about discipline and consistency. I don't do anything that special. Like, I put together a really good workout every day that keeps me interested in it. I love what Mike Tyson always says about discipline. I just have a great picture of me and Mike on my Instagram. If you go to my IG, there's a black and white picture of me and him backstage with Snoop
Nice.
in the 90s. And Mike always says, discipline is doing something you fucking hate, but doing it like you fucking love it. And like I expand on that, and it's training yourself, teaching yourself to love it, to love the journey. Fitness isn't based on a goal, it's based on a way of living.
Yeah.
If you adopt it as your lifestyle and you learn to love it, nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels. Um,
Absolutely.
But when I'm spending time in the States, we just did a tour with Megadeth in a lot of kind of secondary and tertiary American markets, America, like
Yeah.
real America. The
True.
majority of the people in America, so many people are out of shape and overweight, and they're walking around in 2024 with a big gulp and a McDonald's burger, and people are sick. People are getting diseases all the time, and so much of it has to do with the food we eat. And I'm not telling anybody how to eat. Some of the guys in our group are serious carnivore meat eaters, and some of the guys are vegan. And some people are into ayahuasca and plant medicine, and other people are guys who drink beer on the weekends. Some guys are sober, and some guys practice different things. But we've kind of created this community where guys can learn about these things, where guys can say, I've been hearing people talk about breath work, but I don't know what that is. And if you don't know what breath work is, man, this is a way to reset your whole nervous system and clear your mind. And I'll bet if you were a soldier and you were deployed somewhere and you were having a super fucking hard moment, and you knew how to do breath work, you could probably calm your nervous system and, be sharper, or just be okay, because you might be in harm's way, you know. And like, I learned so much from the group that gathered around this, but the way this whole thing happened was really funny and organic, as I was at life, what I felt was like the lowest point in my life. I was 52, 53, and I moved to Mexico. I sold everything I owned. I went with a bag of clothes, a laptop, and a guitar, and said, I'm gonna figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. It's the first time I don't know, and I have no idea. So while I'm figuring it out, I'm gonna work on me. Because whatever I step into, having been a guy who'd been 50 pounds overweight and sluggish and depressed, and been, you know, super ripped and high energy and positive mental attitude. And it's sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. Life has a lot of peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows. You know, in your life, you're going to experience people dying around you, people getting sick around you. You're going to lose a job. You're going to have a breakup and a divorce. We act shocked when people die. I can't believe he's dead. Really? Everybody dies. I can't believe we're breaking up. Wow, 80% of marriages end in divorce in the first 10 years. Why can't you believe it? Those odds are actually, you should believe it. But we create these stories in our head that we grow great attachment to. And when things don't work out as we planned, some of us are really frustrated. Some of us are really displeased. So I moved down to Mexico. I start writing a book and logging all the things I'm doing. And I'm talking about, I took up meditation. Started with just 10 minutes a day, but every day it's a ritual. And right after the meditation, I do some affirmations, stand in the mirror and tell myself what I believe about myself and what I want to believe about myself, about the character that I want to be. I remind myself, I look in the mirror and say, Evan, you're smart, you're strong, you're kind, you show up for other people, you're disciplined, you do what you say, you're an honorable person, you're transparent, you know, the things that are valuable to me. And the more I say it, the more I believe it. And I believe every man struggles with confidence in moments, you know. I believe I'm a very, very confident man in a lot of areas, but everybody has one area or two areas where we're out of our depth and we're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right here. I feel very unconfident, and that pervades all of us, you know. So through the meditation and the yoga, I started a gratitude practice where I literally, it might be 30 seconds, it might be 10 minutes, where I thank God and the universe for another day alive, for breathing, and for the birds and the trees and the ocean and my friends and the opportunities. And I put myself into an abundance mindset, because you're either looking through the glasses that everything's all good and you're grateful for what you have, or you have an abundance mindset, or you have a poverty mindset where you're focused on what you don't have, what you're not getting, who slighted you, why didn't you have this? And
which is most people in society today.
It was me. It
Yeah.
was me. You know, I'm on stage with Biohazard, with the most coveted gig a metal band can have, is opening up for Metallica or Iron Maiden. That's it. And we got to do both. But I'm standing on tour with Metallica up on the stage, in my head going, why the fuck am I not Metallica? It's not enough. No, it's never enough. I had the house and the car and the money and the lifestyle. Happiness comes from within yourself, man. And this is a message that I want to share, because a lot of us are chasing the wrong things. And I'm not saying I know what anybody's right thing is. I have a knack for helping guys find their own truth. You know, so many of us live with, you know, so many guys are gay, but they act like they're straight. So they're living in an act, in a lie. Like, the world has evolved. People will love you and embrace you no matter what you are. As a matter of fact, in our day and age, people celebrating people for getting aligned with their truth. It's a different era. We don't have to hang on to old ideas. But you know, I'm so passionate about this, and I I'm down in Mexico. I'm writing a book, and I asked some guys to come by my house so I could read them like the first few pages of the book and get some feedback because I really wasn't sure. I was having like imposter syndrome. I wasn't feeling confident. I was second guessing myself. And I'm a guy who believes in everything that I've ever done that was successful was because I believed with all my confidence. You know, whether you believe you can do something or not, you're always right. Becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to fail, you're going to fail if you start, you know. And I read a little bit from the book, and I asked the guys to go around and give me a little feedback. And I told them, listen, I said, it's possible. I'm just regurgitating other shit that I heard, and this isn't anything special. And if you guys tell me the book is shit, I'll do something else. Maybe it's not writing a book. I wasn't sure that I wanted to write a book. The book was more for me to document the process. And what happened was magic. It was like 9 or 10 guys at my house. I lured them over with food from a little old grandma named Mama Lulu, who's from Oaxaca, who cooks the best Mexican food in my neighborhood. And she was my chef. So I said, guys, if you come by my house, Mama Lulu will make food, whatever you guys want. Let me read a little from my book and give me some feedback. I wasn't looking for much. But as we went around the circle, each guy started sharing his experience and his points of relation. He's like, whoa, man, when you talked about the beauty of impermanence, I never really thought about it like that. Like, I had a great 2-year relationship with this girl, and we broke up, and I was so focused on the breakup, instead of saying, wow, I got to experience this great 2 years with this woman. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I loved. And now I get to take that and start again fearlessly. But we don't really think like that. And it's a freeing thing to not have attachment to things lasting forever.
Yeah.
Like I said early in this interview, you know, if you're lucky and you work at it, life can be a long, interesting book with a lot of different chapters, and you get to write them all. But not if you're stuck in analysis paralysis, not if you're stuck in paralyzed fear, and not if you live in a gilded cage or prison of your own design that you've created that you don't want to be in. Break the chains of what you don't want to do anymore. Change your life. You know, there's people see some guy leave his corporate job and go become a digital nomad, and now he's in Bali. Like, that's the new wealth, man. Freedom.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, and some of us, you know, we're committed to our careers, but we have other passions, and like, we got to make time for those things. You know, let's say, you know, you love your job, but you also have a family and you have a lot of work to do around keeping up the house and whatever takes your time. You know, like, our society needs to celebrate, you know, men going out in the woods and doing shit together and running with the wolf pack a little bit. You know, military guys are around a bunch of guys doing a bunch of guy stuff, you know,
Sure.
not necessarily at a lack for masculine energy. But man, there's so many men that have been emasculated or emasculated themselves. Their whole life is in front of a screen. They don't interact with other people. They don't move they're not in their physical self. They're not ready for action. They're just watching life go by. And I want to help people live their life to their full potential, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of that resonates with me. And I think what you're doing is going to change and change a lot of that and grow everything. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I actually know you're in New York City to do a meeting with Mantorship. You know, if I knew this in advance, we'd hope we'd be in the same room, but maybe we could do this again at some point. But the one thing I want to make sure that I ask before I get out of here, and it's something I've been wondering, something that I think is important to a lot of people in the audience who grew up with your music. How did Biohazard get back together? How did you decide, like, I want to get back to doing this? Because there were many, many years Biohazard toured without Evan Seinfeld. And I mean, you're the face of the group. You're who people identify that group with.
I mean, I left the band in 2012, and the other guys toured around for like about 2 years, 3 years after that, but that was 10 years ago. Like, they hadn't played together in 10 years, and nobody was really talking to anybody. And it wasn't something that I was even thinking about. I was going through the airport, and my drummer, Danny, who I've known since I'm 12 years old, his brother, Richie Schuler from East 94th Street in Canarsie, who was also a drummer, who also I used to play with. I hear his voice, yo, Ev, turn around. It's Richie Schuler, it's Danny's brother. I'm in the airport changing planes somewhere. Coming back from Los Angeles to Tulum, to Mexico. And I love Richie. We start talking, and it's one of those things like, we get so, I was so living in my ego that I was attached to a bunch of resentment about a bunch of things that were a bunch of stories that I made up in my head about thinking how other people should react to things. What the fuck is that? I didn't even remember anymore what the real reason was the band wasn't together anymore. But I ran into Richie, and he said, my brother would love to hear from you. And I thought to myself, we were like best of friends, all of us at one time, and my life's a lot different now. And I picked up the phone and called Danny, and we just started talking. It wasn't about putting the band back together. I wanted to reconnect with my brothers, if I hadn't been working on myself and learning that resentment only hurts you, only hurts me, if I got a beef with you, you don't necessarily know it. I'm carrying it around like a boulder in my backpack, weighing me down. It was amazing. We reconnected, and it just all flowed together in one moment. I saw Billy. A band is hard. It's a bunch of egomaniacs with low self-esteem. It's a bunch of guys who are fighting to get to the top together and fighting with each other for every inch of creativity, input, of stardom, of fame, of contribution, of acknowledgement. People want to be seen. People want to be acknowledged. And when you're doing it in a group setting, not everybody gets the same out of it. And everybody might put in the same. And it's complicated, but right about the time I ran into Billy and I started, I got on the phone with Bobby. I actually talked to Bobby first during the pandemic. He called me out of the blue, and we had like a really cool conversation, but there was no intention behind it. And somebody started a rumor that we were putting the band back together because people had seen us talking. And next thing I know, I run into Andy Gould, and Paul Gargano, who are the band's managers, Andy used to manage Rob Zombie for 27 years, and he used to manage Linkin Park, big bands, Pantera he worked on. And Andy said, there's this incredible opportunity right now for a band with all its original, for an iconic metal band with all its original members, that everybody's in really good shape and got their chops up. You guys could really make some impact on the scene. And we went out and we got together in a room, we broke some bread, we had a rehearsal. It sounded incredible. It was revitalized. It was like, it needed to go away for 10 years for everyone to get rejuvenated and excited about it. You know what I mean? The fans are hungry. We just did a huge European tour. And if you look at my Instagram, there's like a shot from this festival in Poland with 600,000 people. Like, to stand on a stage in front of that many people and have them like chanting or jumping, it's another level of experience. And I don't know that I ever appreciated it. Here's the punchline thing. Through working on myself, through a turn of events, this and that,
Are you good? I thought I lost you.
Sorry. You know what? A guy that's really annoying has been calling me and texting me for something about $30 for something.
Oh, okay. I thought it was probably something from Mantorship being like, get the fuck over to this meeting, please.
No, the meeting's taking place in this conference.
Okay, good. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. So
Robert's job is to manage the thing. He made sure I was here early.
Okay, so back to that you weren't
So
appreciating.
I now have a huge amount of appreciation for everything I do.
Yeah.
I have gratitude and positive mindset. So it doesn't matter if I'm sitting in my house or if I'm on a big stage. I tend to appreciate everything more, and that's a gift, man. You
Yeah,
know.
if I could tell you something wild, because we mentioned Pantera a few times during this interview, I just saw, the newly formed Pantera, the change in lineup at Madison Square Garden. Great
Oh,
show. Had a great and Pantera never had the opportunity to headline MSG. And one of the coolest parts of the show, beyond just how great of a performance was that Phil was up on stage and you could tell he had a very real moment. He had tears in his eyes and he was like, "Man, I know that Dime and Vinny would have loved to have seen this because they never got to headline the Garden." And what he said is similar to what you said. He goes, "I am so glad I am doing this right now in my life." He was like, "Way back, I was out of my mind. I would have never appreciated it." And he's like, "I am appreciating so much being up here and seeing you guys." And you could tell, like, you go to shows and sometimes you're like, this is the same rehearsed thing that they do every show. And I could tell for Phil that was a very real moment, unique to that moment, that venue.
I mean, those guys are so authentic, and I think that's where our connection as friends and bands always came in because we were all just very real. I mean, there were some nights when we were on tour with Pantera where, like, in the middle of the Pantera show, they were like, me and the guys are standing on the side of the stage, and they would just start mimicking some Biohazard riffs and go Tales from the Hard Side and start playing Tales from the Hard Side, and the crowd was always like, what are these, like, what is this, and like Pantera are so like they were such are such a authentic fans of music that for them it was fun to play the Brooklyn guys song and feel what it felt like to do it, and we were like, so it was surreal for us to like that these guys thought this was cool and funny, and we were mostly doing pranks with each other backstage all day and night. It was like a clown fest, you know.
It's amazing.
Um, yeah, man. I'll tell you this. Um, so the band getting back together has now given me this vehicle to go around the world and hold space for men in the Mantorship Circle of Brotherhood. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up a men's circle at every show that I play at where it's feasible with the time and the travel, and that I have, an hour and a half or something free, and I can get local people to secure a space. But I held a circle in outside of Amsterdam in Holland, and man, 30 guys came, and these are Dutch guys. These are big Viking dudes with, big blonde guys with beards, some guys who are bikers wearing their vest, wearing their cut. The guys cry, guys open up. And like, if you got to cry, that shit's got to come out. It's poison inside you. It's like vomit. You don't hold it in, you got to let it out because it's full of bile and it's acidy and it's burning your insides. Tears contain salt, and salt cleanses the wound of a warrior. And man, I hadn't cried almost my whole adult life, and man, I cry every day. Every time something's emotional to me, I feel it at another level because I'm more in touch with my feelings, and it's mindfulness, bro.
Yeah.
And it only makes your life better. So my big mission is spreading this word to men that you can change your life and you can make it better, period. And we
That's
have
awesome.
we have a program, we have a course, we have a book, we have a podcast. It's all be launching in the next few months. So Mantorship.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, Mantorship Official. You can follow me, Evan Seinfeld, at Evan Seinfeld. If you want to see a guy on the beach with his shirt off having fun.
Very, very awesome. And Biohazard, because you guys have some dates coming up. If it's cool, I have one last question that I was curious about, and it's like a smaller, probably less significant thing, but just seeing you all these years later from, when you were on VH1 with, Supergroup and all that other stuff. Needless to say, everyone knows that you're a heavily tattooed guy. The thing that stood out to me when I saw that last interview once again with Matt Wally was that you blacked out one of your entire arms. I was actually just curious the significance of it. Was it stuff that no longer served you that you were just like, let me tattoo over all this? What was the reason?
No, this was an exercise in celebrating non-attachment and saying, I've had these tattoos for 20 years. Wouldn't it be cool to have different tattoo? And I always liked things that were really bold and graphic. But, when I first started getting tattoos in the late 80s, tattoos were for outlaws,
True. Yeah.
You were either a biker, a gangster from prison, or in the Navy, and tattoos have become a pop culture thing that, teenagers and grandmas have tattoos.
Yeah. Did that make it less cool to you?
It didn't make my tattoos mean less, but it certainly made me want to take it to another level. And, I don't know, for me, it's more of like I don't know, I've always collected muscle cars my whole life. And I love to repaint a car. If it was not an original car and I didn't have to keep the original color, man, I love to take a red car and turn it black. And it's creation. My guitar player Bobby in Biohazard always says, "My body's my temple, and I'm painting the walls."
Yeah, I've heard that before.
This was a repaint. And I wasn't covering anything specific. It wasn't like, oh, I have this tattoo that I have a ton of shitty tattoos.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because I saw that Kat Von D has blacked out a bunch of stuff, and for her, she's become more religious. She's like, that's like what I said. This no longer serves me. This is no longer what I'm about. So I was wondering if it was that similar type of thing.
Maybe Kat Von D and I are part of a secret society that we're not prepared to tell you what it really means yet. I'll be
okay. Sounds good. But yeah, once again, as you mentioned, at Evan Seinfeld on Instagram and X or Twitter, whatever people want to call it, at Biohazard FL on Instagram and X. You can check out the dates they have coming up. And then Mantorship.com, at Mantorship Official on Instagram. And I can see that Evan Seinfeld is enjoying a slice of New York City authentic pizza, probably for the first time in way too long, and enjoying it. And that's probably my cue that it is time to wrap this up. But it's been an honor, man.
Thank you so much for the time and the interest. And, I hope this message reaches somebody. I'm going to close with this and say, if you're a man and you're in a dark place and you're feeling desperate, you're thinking about hurting yourself or hurting somebody else, men's mental health issues aren't really addressed as much as they should be. Nobody's mental health issues are addressed as they should be, but, we're a lot more likely to do something that we wish we didn't do. So in our Discord is 24/7, there's people live, somebody to talk to. And if you need somebody to talk to, there's a brotherhood waiting for guys who've been there and done that. Maybe could help you get through a tough time. So Mantorship, let's fucking go.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, best of luck on these next tour dates coming up. I know that you're playing in Albany tomorrow. So yeah, man, hopefully we can do this again at some point if you're ever back in New York in studio and maybe with Chris here. But I really think people are going to enjoy this.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.